Well, hello everyone. I think as has been pointed out, it is 7 o'clock, and I thank people for coming on time, and a few people can join late, and I'm sure we'll catch up. Uh, I want to welcome everybody first to the Year Ahead session. It's great to be looking forward, and I want to do a bit of introduction and thank you for starters. Peter Rowe, who's our district trainer, who's on the journey with me each year. Peter has been very instrumental in setting this up, as he is as part of our training and learning in the district. And thank you so much, Peter. And I think most people know Peter, but anyway, I'll introduce you. So there we go. And also, we've got the capable assistance of Nancy Magstick, who's our executive administrator for the district, who is very, very helpful with so many different things, including setting up and operating tonight. We're in Zoom, of course, in terms of what we're doing tonight. We're not in person, which is what we would normally want to do with the Year Ahead. Traditionally, it's taken place in different places around the district on an in-person basis, and it's been the better part of a day. We're going to be shorter, recognizing that we're using Zoom and recognizing that we really need to be respectful of people's time and Zoom fatigue and all of that. So we're going to cover some content and also have some time for questions. We want to be flexible and informal, but as I say, we want to be respectful of time here. So we will ask that people, as much as you can, hold questions until we invite questions, because we'll be inviting questions a number of times through this evening. And if you really think you need to say something apart from that for clarification, you can raise your hand. But the other thing you can do is put a question in the chat. Nancy is going to monitor the chat, and she may well be able to answer something if it's a question of clarification or something. But we will have time at several junctures here for questions and some dialogue. So with that, and Peter has posted the agenda for this evening, which was in the note that went out as well. So starting with the describing a little bit the 22-23 Rotary year, a couple of things I want to mention as we jump off into it. And one is the theme, Imagine Rotary. Now, many of you will have already seen that theme and may have reviewed the material on the Rotary International website through My Rotary. If you haven't, there's some really good material, and Jennifer, of course, is incredibly well spoken and incredibly inspirational. When she says imagine Rotary, she really does imagine Rotary. So I'd certainly encourage that. And Jennifer, for anyone who is missed it, is the first woman president of Rotary International, and she is a proud Canadian. And so that's really special. And we'll be saying something a little further about that later on here. I'll be asking Chris to say a few words. So starting in with the agenda, one of the things that we have done recently is we've done strategic planning with district, and we've been through a process that was led by John Bathurst and our district strategic planning team. And John and the strategic planning team are in place to provide service to the clubs. And they have been asked to facilitate strategic plan development by a number of clubs. I think they've done a very good job with that. We've certainly had good reaction from the clubs that have participated with them. And I hope that other clubs will take advantage of that. And when it came time to do district strategic planning, of course, we thought that we should try to take advantage of that resource if we could. And that's what we did. Even though the district strategic plan isn't quite the same animal as a club strategic plan, the concepts and the process were indeed very applicable. And John and his team, Bala particularly, were really effective in helping us through it. So kudos all around to them. The strategic plan is posted on the website, and I'm not going to try and go through that in detail here. We want to highlight a few things, but we will not go through it in detail tonight. I'm going to go through the priorities that we have agreed, but really the priorities are, there's much more depth in the strategic plan. And we've worked with the committees particularly in sorting out the priority items and the strategic plan area by area, which I think is nicely worked out that way. And Peter has put on the put on the screen the Rotary priorities, the 4 Rotary priorities that were the background as we worked out what we wanted to do specifically as district priorities to highlight. So we're drilling down the level, as it were. And the district priorities are things that we feel that we should be doing as district, that we want to highlight as things that we're going through in the next several years. And it is a several-year plan, and I also want to flag that it was very much participating as part of its development were Shirley, Pat, and Drew, the district governor nominee and district governor nominee designee, so that we were, you know, we have the 3 of us in terms of the next 3 years, and so we all participated very fully in this program process. Also, I would say we need to recognize that, like everything in Rotary, we can't do everything. We all need to be selective. And yes, we're talking about 7 priorities, but there are also very valuable things that are ongoing and maybe just as important, but we didn't feel the need to single them out in terms of priorities that we're focusing on in terms of looking forward, because they're working well and they really are making a valuable contribution. We're also going to be using the strategic plan in working with committees. We're planning to ask the committees to give us a quarterly update on where they're at with strategic plans. This is our district committees. And the governor team is going to spend time quarterly taking a look at where we are with the strategic plan and what we need to do to make any shifts, make any changes, make any progress to make this happen, anything that we can do to move along the achievement of our objectives. Now, the other thing that's really important from the standpoint of the clubs is that the assistant governors are our primary link with the clubs are the assistant governors. And so the assistant governors are the people that are kind of the face of our district to a great degree with the clubs. And we will be feeding back the strategic plan progress to the assistant governors so that they're better equipped to deal with how we can assist clubs through our committees and through the different topic areas. So moving then to some of the priorities, if we can start with that screen, Peter. Yeah. Okay. So the first priority that we've got is cuts to the core of what we are as district, providing efficient and effective support to clubs who are the heart of Rotary in everything we do. And it's one of the things you'll hear, some of you have heard more than you want to from me maybe, but the purpose of district is to support clubs. And it is in a lot of ways that simple. Even RI puts it in pretty much that term. We do a lot of other things with district, and most of them do contribute, of course, to our serving clubs. But we always want to remember that that is our mainstream purpose, is to provide support to clubs. Now, part of that support also is, as Lauren has pointed out, part of that is to provide inspiration to clubs, because some of what we know at district with our committees, with the connections with our zone, with Rotary International, really gives some of the inspiration for what we do in Rotary at our clubs. So this is all part of the picture. So moving to the next one, increase the impact of the foundation through giving and in service projects. Now I'm going to stop talking here and turn this over to a couple of people that know a lot more than I do about this. We have our current district governor, Lauren, with us, and Lauren is also going to be the foundation chair for district for next year. And for those of you who were at the Lower Mainland Foundation dinner on Saturday, you will know what a powerful and inspirational speaker Lauren is around foundation. And then I'll introduce Chris after that. So Lauren, over to you.
Thank you, John. And we have a number of ideas that we hope to promote this year to try and spark, again, that continued donations to the Rotary Foundation. If I could simplify it, if you guys just could duplicate what we're doing this year, I don't have to work that hard, because it's been an absolute remarkable year, and we still have 2 months to go. We do have some plans though to put on some events that I think are going to make it easier for people to raise critical dollars. And I'll let Chris Offer talk a bit about the $1 Million Dinner, but we are promoting a $1 Million Dinner on October the 7th in the Lower Mainland, the Cochina Golf Course. And these are really, really important to get to know that why, that heart factor in Rotary. Two, if we're going to continue to promote the Paul Harris Society, of course, and the Polio Society, because these are commitments, and Bequest Society as an opportunity to give today's dollars or future dollars, because ultimately it's how you give is what makes this a great difference. But really what we're encouraging clubs to do is please build in the foundation into your plans in the next year. If we can help you attend a function, an event, if we can be guest speakers, we will put people in touch with you so that we can give you the best value possible.
Thank you, Lauren. And Chris Offer, as Lauren had mentioned, is organizing our $1 Million Dinner. And Chris is going to talk to us about two things. One is the $1 Million Dinner, and the other is a visit by Jennifer Jones to this area. And Chris is our lead on both of these. And Chris, incidentally, kind of exemplifies the concept of if you want something done, find a busy person to do it, because he's very, very busy. He's doing both of these, and he has just picked up another little assignment from Rotary International, where he is going to move from vice chair to chair of the Peace Centers Committee. Now that's the Rotary International Peace Centers Committee. So this is the 7 university peace centers. And so Chris has got a very big job with Rotary International. He's on the board of Rotary Foundation Canada. So yeah, Chris and Penny is same boat. We ask them to do a ton and they do a ton. Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure to talk to you. So get your calendars out, your day timers, your smartphones, and there's 2 important dates I want you to record, July 10th and October 7th. And July 10th, Jennifer Jones, as was mentioned, the first female president of Rotary International, a Canadian. I think I'd have to go back and count, but I think the 6th Canadian to serve as RI president will be in Vancouver. She decided to start the Rotary year off as a Canadian with a tour of across Canada. So from she'll be in Yukon before July 1st, and then her hometown of Windsor, Ontario. Then July 1st in Ottawa with a potential meeting with the Prime Minister, and then on to St. John's, Quebec City, Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton, and she'll be in Calgary for the Stampede, and Vancouver on Sunday, July 10th, 8:30 a.m. She arrives at YVR. We're hoping to have as many of you that can get out there to welcome her at the domestic terminal. We'll be cranking details out as they're available. She's heading from YVR right out to White Rock Beach, where we're going to have a family picnic. This is jointly organized with our neighbors 50-50, 50-40. We're going to host there's music on the beach, a couple of hours, possibly a beach cleanup. But some real fun activities with Jennifer. And she's coming with past RI President Dean Roars, our local, Valerie Wafer, and past trustee and director Bryn Stiles, all Canadians, will be with her. From White Rock, she's heading to East Vancouver, where she'll visit an Indigenous women's shelter connected with Right for Read. And then in the evening, she's going to celebrate the Rotary Ride for Hearing with the Rotary Club of Vancouver, and a limited number of tickets, because the rowing club in Stanley Park, one of the oldest buildings built in 1911 in Vancouver, is where she'll be. One last thing on this, there's a special clothing line, and I'm going to send out a brochure to everybody. Nick Jordan, member of the Rotary Club in New Westminster, Royal City, and owner of Creative Embroidery, has created a special line of t-shirts, jackets, hats for this tour. They'll be on sale at the Prince George conference, but you can order them online too. The $1 Million Dinner that Lauren mentioned, this is for new money. This is an occasion for our district to raise new large gifts. It's a celebration of that. I'm talking to 43 of the most generous donors in our district on this call right now. Thank you. But the $1 Million Dinner is for new gifts of $10,000 US or bequests. You can leave a bequest if you're already a bequest member. Up it. Most of our real estate, certainly in the Lower Mainland and other parts of the province, has increased in price. And I see people that are independently wealthy, like Gus Cruikshank, on the call. So there's lots of opportunities. We'll be cranking out information on that at the district conference and before that. But those two dates, October 7th and July 10th. So that's it. John, thanks for the chance to talk about that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris. And I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions about what we've just discussed to this point. Okay, I'm happy to carry on. Okay, the next item on the priority list is improving communications. And whoop, sorry, I got the order wrong. I'm sorry. Okay. Promoting membership. There we go. And promoting membership is something that we are including as both something that is inherently very, very mainstream as a priority. You always hear about membership. It is important, but also because we're taking a look, and we've got a really strong membership committee that's continuing to take a look at what are the new things we can do that are going to be more effective in terms of increasing membership. And it's both Rotary and Rotaract. It's both through district-wide initiatives, and it's through individual club support. And I think it's really important to remember that we are all responsible. We need to be ticking on all cylinders here in terms of membership. Membership is a tremendous challenge. We've been through COVID. It's amazing how well we've done. North America is challenged generally as far as membership is concerned in Rotary and service clubs, but Rotary's done relatively well, and we've done really well as a district. And, we can't rest on any laurels, but we are right up there. Lauren has been really good keeping us up on the numbers, and we are really good in terms of being right around the top of our zone in terms of membership. So it's fantastic, but we absolutely have to keep our pedal to the metal. Okay, so I'll stop there. I mean, obviously we can go on at great length, but I'll stop there. So what's next up, Peter? If I've got okay, here now we've got the communications. Okay, improving internal and external communications. as part of what we went through with the strategic planning, we recognized that we have a lot of challenge. It's natural when we're such a large, diverse organization in how we're handling our communications, both internally and externally. And so I'm really reporting that we are wanting to really address some of the issues there. We have had a little bit additional challenge thrown our way because the chair of our committee, Andrea Johnson, sadly died earlier this year. And she was just an enormous resource and doing a ton of things. Peter Rofe, who was her predecessor in that role, very, very kindly, on top of everything else he's doing, offered to jump in and handle that for the moment. And Peter is working both to try to develop the structure for a new committee that will be going forward and recruit people for that, at the same time as he's providing the continuity to make sure that we're doing what we need to do for this year. So that's that one. So I think we can move on. The next one is equity and inclusion. And I'm going to just skip that one because we're going to ask Ardith Paxton Mann to talk to it later. Ardith is our chair of our district Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And it's really worth noting that DEI is something that is been developing in Rotary. It's really moving forward. It really links to a lot of things, not least membership. And it's something that Jennifer Jones has been absolutely upfront about, saying this is a top priority for her and for Rotary going forward. But I'll leave the detail on that to Ardith. And then peace. We're a peace district. We've been doing a great deal with peace. We've been doing, particularly strong areas are the Peace Scholars with Gloria Stout, and the Peace Facilitators with John Anderson. And many of you will have seen the Peace Facilitators because we've trained quite a number of them through his committee and the Mediators Beyond Borders. And we're finding that that is something that is a very helpful initiative. In fact, we'll probably be expanding that initiative with some funding that was surplus at the district conference for 2021. But we're also set up a new peace committee, or a rejuvenated peace committee, that's an umbrella peace committee that is looking beyond those two areas where we've been really strong and looking at what other things we should be doing as district and can do to support clubs in terms of peace. There may well be more clubs that are interested in being peace clubs, and Ardith is not ready yet, but she's starting this coming Rotary year, is setting up a committee that will take a look at what are some of the areas that we can do better in terms of peace. And then finally, we have youth. And youth is kind of a favorite area of a lot of us in terms of the service that we've done in Rotary. And we've got a really rich diversity of programming within our district in terms of youth. Some of it is really leading the way, in terms of Interact, in terms of Riley Youth Exchange. We're doing a ton. And I'm going to ask, I'm not going to go into detail. I mean, I think many of you will know the detail, and certainly lots is available from our youth committee. But I'm going to ask Linda Roca to say a few words about youth right now.
Thanks, John. I think one of the messages that that we are wanting to get out to clubs going into the new Rotary year in July is to, and John had kind of touched on communication a few minutes ago, and that's just how we are communicating with clubs and how we can do that better and more effectively. And we have found that one of the ways is for each club to have a youth chair assigned at a club level. So when we send out information on either Interact or RILA, Youth Exchange, any youth programs, CRCs, youth protection, that it's going to one person in the club. So it kind of bypasses the president or secretary. They're already busy enough with running clubs. And we just want to make sure that the information is being received and actually being read, and that when we communicate our programs to individual clubs, that the information is effective and the way we're doing it is effective. So I just leave that with everybody. We will be making a little bit of a push in the next few months to get this put into place. And I just want to welcome, for those of you that don't know, we will have a new district youth chair, and that's Gina Rawson from Prince George. She will be taking over on July 1st. That's it. Thanks, John.
Okay, thanks very much, Linda. And I will say that also Linda's indicating that we want the youth contact into my Rotary, but it's also true for other posts. If the more the club posts in my Rotary, the more effective we can be in serving you as district. So it includes membership, for example, or foundation. If you've got your foundation or membership director in my Rotary, then that means that we can communicate as a group very easily. So our relevant committees can communicate with your contacts, and they're getting to the right person. It doesn't have to go through 2 or 3 hands within a club to get to the right person if you post the right person. So it absolutely applies to youth, but it applies as well to other areas. Okay, moving along, I want to say a little bit about how clubs can support, how district can support clubs, but I will be trying to be fairly quick with this, so respectful of time. We took a few more minutes on some of this. District, as I mentioned, really wants to be supporting clubs as effectively as we can. That's a two-way street. I will say a few words about what district can do, but the thing is, we also need to hear from clubs about what you think you need from district. And again, the main interlocutor here is the assistant governor. And it doesn't matter what committee, whether it's the assistant governor, whether it's the district governor, whatever. I mean, that's the focal point for communication. But we do need to hear, we do need feedback. We welcome feedback. If you think we're not doing it right, tell us. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to do what you're suggesting, but we'll at least listen and we'll at least look at that, because that's how we get better. So in terms of what we do, I mean, districts providing training, learning opportunities, links to our zone and Rotary International, provide information, help with communication. The website's an important tool, but your AG is that link. Our committees are also really great resources for clubs, and you can go direct to our committees. You don't have to go through the AG. They're a good pathfinder. They're there for any number of things, advice, but you can go direct to the committees. And there's a lot of that linkage that happens and should happen, and we encourage that to happen. You've also got your governor team you can talk to, and Murray Wood is coming in as our executive assistant governor. And you can always depend on Nancy, who's our district's executive administrator, who basically is kind of at the nerve center for pretty much everything that's going on. And if she can't answer it, she can certainly tell you where you need to talk to someone. So I'm going to stop there and ask if there are questions on any of that or discussion. Okay, then we will go ahead and ask Ardith to carry on.
Thanks very much, John. And thanks, Peter, for screen sharing. As John has mentioned, I was asked to talk about why diversity, equity, and inclusion is an important strategy for Rotary. And there's absolutely no question. If you've heard Jennifer Jones speak, or you've read any of her recent publications on the RI website, she makes it very clear that neck and neck with the priority of increasing our membership is our education of our members around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And just getting started, I found it quite interesting that our federal government has just passed legislation around gay and bisexual men being able to give blood. And also our Statistics Canada, for the first time ever, has been able to report on the number of trans people in Canada and the number of bisexual people in Canada. And that is a colossal move forward and responds very much to a lot of the questions that we heard from younger people when we were doing our member survey. Like, they were basically telling us to get with the program because there's a lot of curriculum at the universities around these issues, and we weren't really, they didn't feel that we were exploring them sufficiently. So the vision of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as most of you know and will have read in various places on the website, is that one of Rotary's main values is diversity, and that to celebrate the contributions of all backgrounds. Next slide, please, Peter. And diversity, equity, and inclusion isn't a new program. It isn't the flavor of the month. We're advancing DEI as a cultural change in Rotary. We are going to look different in the future. If we do our job properly as purveyors of DEI in our communities and our clubs, we will look different. And it's a critical part of the way we evolve as an organization. Next one, thank you. So Rotary is committing to positive change through, and these are 4 aspects of the DEI framework that came down from RI. The RI task force was established a couple of years ago, and they went around the world asking 31,000 Rotarians what they thought about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And while we were expecting a task force report, we got instead these 4, I guess, modules of what might have been a task force report. And they worked in conjunction with PricewaterhouseCoopers. These are also all on the rotary.org/DEI website. And I really encourage you to read them. They're well written, they're simple, they're messages that you can take to your clubs, that you can have club workshops around. They're really, I really commend them to you. And those of you who were attending the AG session probably heard me talk about the code of conduct. And Jennifer says we have to follow these because it's absolutely the right thing to do. She says we have to do better to be better. Next, please, Peter. So Rotarians and Rotaractors live by Rotary core values, and we all talk about these: fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, and leadership. And we have to exemplify this code of conduct as we interact with one another. And it's not just, the code of conduct is not just something we do with one another in our clubs. It involves our Rotary program participants, our alumni, our friends of Rotary, our honorary Rotarians, our project participants, and our community partners. If we practice respectful and meaningful conversations with one another, we're going to have much more success, I think. Next. So the code of conduct is not complicated. It asks us to be considerate and to contribute to a collaborative, positive, and healthy environment in which all are respected and valued. Interestingly enough, in some exit interviews that have been conducted, one of the reasons that folks left Rotary within the first 2 to 3 years was because they didn't feel respected and valued. So that's something that we need to consider. Next one, Peter. Oh, now we're going to have a poll, which is great. You don't have to watch my talking head for the next few minutes. Peter will tell us about that. Won't you, Peter?
The first poll is about just about to gauge your sort of level of awareness and so forth in regarding DEI. So please be honest, and no one's tracking you, but we just want to find out what you think. So I'm going to launch the poll now.
We're going to, yes, there we go.
Almost there. I think that's it then. So that's pretty good. I mean, yeah.
I'm cheering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so it just shows this group is quite sort of committed, or at least taking some action, and is taking some steps down the road towards this. And you'll see in a moment how this compares to everyone else.
I'm really happy about those poll results, particularly the last two, committed and action taken, because for a long time, and this is perfectly normal given the numbers of members that we have in the district, and the fact that this is not, it's not easy stuff. So you can't expect it to take off in a big hurry. But initially, people were saying, what's diversity, equity, and inclusion? So we've come a long way from that place. And I'm pleased to see that some clubs are taking some action. You ready with the next one? There we go. When we conducted our member survey in the late fall, before we came out with our 15 recommendations, these were the survey results from the members on the same questions. So you can see that the last two are relatively the same as your answers. A very high answer on commitment, and a relatively higher, not higher than commitment, but higher than it was on action. So your responses have been very similar to the ones that the 50-40 members sent in the survey.
Just to add a note, the blue bars are what people answering thought about other people in the club and their level of understanding, commitment, action. Not as high as their own, of course, but
no,
that's encouraging too, to see what their perception was.
It's interesting because in the understand one in particular, the other is higher than the self, which doesn't usually happen, and so is the aware and the not aware. Oh dear. So we're hoping to see that those different in our next poll. So in the DEI survey, we asked some questions about importance to the club. And these were the District 50-40 members' top 5. Members feel that they belong, they want to grow and adapt, and they want their clubs to be relevant. And I think we've heard that on several occasions over the last couple of weeks in our various sessions that we've had together. And sustainability, they want to work on projects that are sustainable. They want to work on district grants and global grants that are sustainable. And they want to develop projects with community partners that are sustainable. So I think that's definitely a message that we'll be hearing a lot about. And also the message that it's not what you look like, but what you contribute. And then from the survey, the importance to the community. Here was the top 5. And fairness to all, beneficial to all concerned, build goodwill. What does this sound like, folks? Reflect community, and connection to all communities. Now, I think this, the last one, number 5, I think means a connection to communities in the broadest sense, in the inclusion of ethnic communities as well. And I think that this is an emphasis that's being made increasingly that I don't notice has been made as significantly in the last 5 or 10 years. And depending on the communities you're in, you will feel differently about this perhaps. Next one, Peter. So as I mentioned earlier, from our DEI survey, we came up with 15 recommendations. And the top amongst those recommendations are that the respondents wanted the DEI committee to be involved in research and development of diversity, equity, and inclusion materials so that we could provide we could provide responses to a club-driven approach so that the district DEI committee would be seen as a consulting agency. So a club that decided they wanted to, say, sponsor a DEI event or have a DEI panel involving community people or several DEI speakers could call the DEI committee, the agency, and say, this is what I want to do. What kind of resources have you for me? Who can you recommend as a speaker? You know, where have they done this kind of thing before? And we can start sharing the information on our DEI website, which I'll introduce you to in a minute. And I think it will become very rich in a very short period of time. What we've done is we've divided the DEI committee up into groups of 2 or 3, and they are researching specific areas such as truth and reconciliation and racism in the downtown east side, and a number of others that just aren't coming to the tip of my tongue at the moment. But I think it became clear the clubs want to learn more and they want to work more with community groups. So we need to work with community groups on access, for instance. We're not very good at practicing that. Some clubs are much better than others. Seashell stands out, but most of us don't, either don't consider that when we're looking at our venues, or we have venues that aren't very accessible. So we need to change that. And matching the club profile with the community profile. This is something that's easier in some communities than others because some municipalities and cities do their own community profiles, and you can access them relatively easily and see how closely they fit with your club profile. And then if they don't, it's a great opportunity to sit down with the city or the municipality and say, where are our profiles similar, and where they're different, are they all that different? Those kinds of conversations. Thanks, Peter. And also holding club socials for members and community. I think sometimes we forget that when we have our Rotary celebrations and socials, we forget to invite our community partners and community members. And this is the most perfect way to attract new members. We found that. I know that Mountain View finds that. It's just something that works. There's a real energy in Rotary meetings that newcomers from the community pick up on, and they say, hey, I'd like a bit of that too. So if you haven't tried it, do so. And we do need to do a better job of celebrating culture and recognition. We need to celebrate things like Pride Week and International Women's Day and Black History Month, and draw attention to all the things that make Rotary membership a rich organization. So everybody wanted opportunities for members to learn about DEI. And the one thing that I think is critical is that you don't want to be a bystander in Rotary. You want to be an upstander. A bystander is somebody who just sits at the back of the room with the same people all the time, doesn't go terribly much out of their way to speak to other groups of people. And if somebody says something that's inappropriate, they don't bother doing too much about it. And this comes up in our new code of conduct, so be sure and check that out on the website. But it's easier to be an upstander, and that doesn't mean criticizing the individual in front of the whole Rotary meeting. It just means finding a way to let that individual know that whatever was said was inappropriate and shouldn't be repeated again. And of course, reducing costs and increasing flexibility. And this is our young people. These are Rotarians. This is their big concern. It's also a concern of pensioners and people on fixed income. So it's something that, as we're trying to make our culture more attractive to different people and younger people, we want to watch this one for sure. Now, Peter's going to post this on the website, so you don't have to madly write them down, but we do have a new, I'm very happy to say, a Rotary District DEI page. And here is the link. And we have from my Rotary, the Rotary Learning Center, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and there are 36. Does that mean there's 36 course catalogs or 36 pages of material, Peter? I'm not sure, but there's some very excellent modules. I think there's 14 modules on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're very good. So if you haven't done any of them, I would encourage you to raise this issue with your clubs, and you could do them in advance and then spend a meeting or two talking about them, because the material is very good and easy to follow. Rotary 2020, this came out of RI, moving from diversity to inclusive action. And this is a YouTube article. And then understanding personal bias. This is a fascinating side of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because very often you'll meet someone and they'll say, well, I don't have any biases. I'm not biased. And then all of a sudden they discover, whoops, I didn't know I was, but I feel very strongly about this. And so it's a very humbling experience to be involved in something like this. And this is a test that's put out by Harvard University, and it's called Implicit. And it asks a bunch of questions and then feeds the information back to you. And it's fascinating to take, either as an individual or as a club. So I recommend those to you. And that's my presentation this evening. I look forward to working with you on DEI. If you'd like to have a presentation at your club, please let Peter or me know. And we're also doing facilitated peace conversations through the Peace Committee, through John Anderson's facilitated peace committee, and we're going out to clubs, and very often clubs can choose their own topic for their facilitated session, but often the clubs are choosing DEI. So we kind of, I don't want to say kill two birds with one stone, but we do. And it's a great opportunity, because you divide the club up into small groups, and small discussion groups are always much more valuable. So I recommend this to you. It's going to be an exciting new way to do Rotary.
Well, thank you very much, Ardith, and it's so wonderful to have somebody with your knowledge and background and passion for this area. So that's terrific. I'm going to open it up carefully to a couple of questions, recognizing that this is such a broad area that we could spend all night on it, and so we will have to be mindful of time. But if there are a couple of questions or comments, please put your hand up.
So John, I have two in chat, if you don't mind. If you've got time, can I please present them?
Sure, you go ahead with those.
One former district governor who says that the district DEI survey had 40% of the respondents declare ethnicity. Major gaps is people with disabilities, socioeconomic participants, and First Nations Indigenous participation. So my question on that is that, what do you suggest that we proceed to narrow this major gap? What is it that we have to do from the club point of view?
Nancy, the first thing that comes to mind is that people self-identified in our survey. And so if they don't self-identify as First Nations or people, from a lesser socioeconomic bracket, or as a person with a disability, then, they don't show up. So through our education process, I'm hoping that when we do our next survey, which will be sometime in the late fall, I think, Peter, we will hope to see this change. Because, for instance, I know at least a couple of clubs who are embarking on special programming with First Nations communities. We're doing a paddling program between the Sail Club over here and the Squamish First Nation. And the First Nation are going to instruct teenagers from the Sail Club how to paddle a canoe properly. So, things like that wouldn't have been picked up before. There are gaps. We don't have enough members that are members with, and I'm going to say visible disabilities, because probably half of us have disabilities. But people who are in wheelchairs, or people who are required to use crutches, or may be hearing impaired or visually impaired. We haven't done a lot in that area, but we have to take small steps before big ones. And it'll certainly be something that we are working hard at into the future.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Agatha.
Gordon.
Nancy, you said there was one more, and I think then we'll stop there. Okay.
This one is an interesting question. How do we tie together a Rotary district who is sponsoring $1 million dinner and one that is asking us to make Rotary more affordable for potential members?
Yeah, Nancy, you asked the easiest questions. Yeah, it's pretty hard to, Chris can
Well,
write the language around it, because I think it's all I was going to say, John, was it's pretty hard to be talking to young people who are really anxious to join Rotary and can't afford it and wonder why we're doing it. So it's just the why that needs to be explained.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that one, because I felt the same kind of two sides of this when we're talking about $1 Million Dinner. And part of me thinks, ooh, that's not too inclusive.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it isn't, in the sense that it doesn't include everybody, because there are all sorts of people that it's not a good fit for. But that's true of so much of Rotary.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things that we do that are a good fit for part of our Rotary family, but not for all of our Rotary family. And, we can celebrate that and should celebrate it more in terms of the diversity, as long as we're paying attention and we're sensitive to it. And as long as we're trying to meet the needs of the different parts of our family. It's not one size fits all, and it can't be.
No.
And so I don't think that really we have to put ourselves to the test of, does this meet everybody's needs? Because that would be a fairly narrow set of things that we were able to do if it had to meet absolutely everybody's needs. But I think it's when we're at the same time as we're making the pitch on the $1 Million Dinner, we have to be pretty careful that we're not making people feel badly or guilty because they can't afford to play. And there are going to be all sorts of people who can't afford to play. And so we got to be sensitive about that and say, look, this is an opportunity for the people that can afford it. But there are things about it that that are really effective when you target it to the right people. The thing is that there are a number of people that are at different stages in life that may have an ability to do something. We talk about the planned giving, that kind of stuff. I mean, one of the things is the stock market. there's been all sorts of capital gains happening in the stock market. And if you're fortunate enough to have stocks with capital gains and you're able to give that as a stock gift, the tax advantages are huge. Most of the money is coming from the government. There's less than half of it is the person giving a donation. So those sorts of things, but they only apply to some people. But there's no reason we shouldn't target those people.
No, and it doesn't mean that we can't continue to do, what we're doing at the other end of the continuum and concentrate on doing that and talking about what's going to happen to the money that's being raised, because it can mean projects that help the very people that we've been talking about.
Lauren, do you want to add anything to that?
I agree, Holly. I think we'd be ignorant if we don't raise dollars from people who can to give to people who can't. And we've been doing this for hundreds of years now. And basically, a lot of our dollars go way farther in some developing countries. We feel very good about it. Personally, I don't take any ill will at this at all, and it's not mandatory. So I really don't see it fits in this DI conversation at all.
Okay, well, thank you. So we'll leave that and move along. The next up is learning and development, which is kind of nice in the sense that Ardith was talking about some of the learning opportunities here in DEI. And of course, in learning and development, there is a ton that we do in Rotary. And one of the things that we find with the survey world is that people are very into fellowship and into service as drivers as to why they join, why they belong to Rotary. But next up is development, personal development. And we do offer all kinds of personal development and learning opportunities. And our district does a lot. We have Jen Gisborne with us, who is chair of our learning and development team. But there are all sorts of different parts of district that are involved in providing learning opportunities. And we do things as a district, and we access things as 9 or 10 districts through PETS, the President-elect Training Seminar. So there's a ton of things that we're doing. And the other thing that I want to highlight is the Learning Center. It's in my Rotary. You have to get into my Rotary, of course, as most of you know, to get to the Learning Center. And not all of our Rotarians have a My Rotary account. And so we really, really keep asking the clubs to encourage their members to get a My Rotary account, because it opens up all the member area in the Rotary International website. And there is just a ton of resource there. This year, we're planning to do something in terms of training for secretaries and treasurers at the club level. That's been identified as something where we've had a lot of turnover, and we need to keep moving forward with that. I will stop there, though, and ask Jan if there's anything that you'd like to say.
Well, just to let people know that this is a team, the Learning and Development team, and there's 16 of us on the team, which is the entire group of the 4 district trainers that are paired with the governor line. And we have Ardith as our AG liaison. We have membership, we have foundation, we have a lot of very skilled people from around our district. So one of the things that as we're coming out of COVID, we've all learned how to do a lot of things differently than we did, 3 or 4 years ago. Most of us can't even remember how we used to do it. And John touched on the fact that because of COVID, really, there is now a new Pacific Northwest PETS, the district trainers. There's now, we actually call ourselves District Trainers Anonymous because it's a support group. So all 10 districts, which covers 600 Rotary clubs in the Pacific Northwest, we meet every month and we share ideas, and we're looking at how do we provide better support for our clubs and our members, and how do we deliver it to them in a format that works for them. And we all realize one size does not fit all. Some people are going to be quite happy using the Learning Center. Some people are going to want things in person. Some people are going to want one-on-one things. So if you have anything that you think you need more for your club or you would like to see, reach out to somebody. I think at the end of this, Peter, will you be putting all of our contact information in an email.
You mean about the learning and development team?
Yeah, so you can
We
put
could-
my name and email and contact information. There's lots of people in the district that, as John said, district exists to support the clubs and the members. So we're hoping to try to get more people to get their My Rotary accounts and get onto the Learning Center, because some of those courses, they're easy to do. You can do them at your own pace whenever you want, whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. And a lot of new Rotarians are finding it very helpful, especially some of the younger people that have a different work schedule than some of us who are more seasoned veterans. So that's it. I'm going to say, if anybody has any questions, please, reach out to us, because that's why we do what we do. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Questions, anyone? Okay, well then we'll move along to the next item, which is criminal record checks. Peter, I think you've got a couple of polls. Peter, are you doing polls at this point?
Yep,
Okay.
just pulling it up now.
Oh,
So
okay,
the
yep,
second
no problem.
poll is, does your club deal with children or youth or vulnerable adults? Simple yes or no. Okay, looks like we've finished there. And not surprisingly, almost all the responses are in the yes. So with that, we'll do the, excuse me just a sec. And we'll go to the third and final poll. So with that, what is the level in your club among members who are dealing with children, youth, and vulnerable adults of criminal record check completion? So your awareness of that in your club. So here's the poll. Okay.
So John, while we're waiting for Peter to come back with the results, could I just direct people to the chat? There's some excellent comments in there, and it would be great for you to read them.
There are, yes.
Mhm.
Here are the results, a mix. But it's good to see the highest one is high. And so over to you, John.
Okay, thank you. And of course, people, and I'll leave the chat then because people can read it. So, so I'll move back into criminal record check. I've got a couple of messages that I want to try to be really clear with on criminal record checks. The first is that we have been doing so much better with criminal record checks as a district. And we are challenged, and so this is the first part is we're doing great. The second part is we need to do better. So surprise, surprise, in terms of the two sides of the coin. But what is going really well is that a lot more people from clubs across this district are getting criminal record checks done. And that is an achievement, and it's especially an achievement because we've been dealing with this at a time of COVID when some of the club activities have not been as active in terms of dealing with youth. It is youth and vulnerable adults, but still, it hasn't been as in front of us, and yet it's been moving forward. Now, the assistant governors, Lauren has done a fantastic job in terms of his talks, in terms of mentioning criminal record checks and the need to do them. So Ron Davis, who's on the call, is our outgoing compliance officer. He's our incoming youth protection officer. So he's very much immersed in this world. And we've been doing better, and that's fantastic. The place where we're not doing as well is that we are not reporting, the clubs are not reporting something we've asked for in terms of telling us which members need a criminal record check and which volunteers need a criminal record check and what's the status. We've asked for that, and we've asked for an attestation that the people they have working with youth and vulnerable adults are compliant with criminal record checks. That's part of our youth district protection policy. And it's something that we have told our insurer we have, because they're interested in our youth protection policy. Of course, they're very, very wary about liability in this area. And they want to be assured that we're doing what we can and should, and at least achieving the minimum. And we are not currently able to give them that assurance. And that's a problem, because we only have a minority of the clubs that have come back with their reports and their attestation. And that's not okay, because we may have clubs and individuals that are working with youth on behalf of Rotary that do not have their CRCs. We cannot defend that situation. It's funny because I've been involved in youth sport for ages and ages, and I've sometimes been a little wary about people there that are a little reluctant to follow rules. But generally, this is not at issue in a lot of organizations, including most youth sports, things like Scouts, Guides, so on. Really, it's just a given. It's a basic. That if you're working with kids, that you've got to have your CRC, and if you don't have it, you don't work with kids, and that's really where we are with Rotary. I'd like to see everybody get a CRC, but it's not compulsory, and we're going to have people that are not working with youth or vulnerable adults and don't want to get it. People are retired from most active Rotary, and that's okay. But what's not okay is to have somebody that's working with kids and does not have a CRC. And we are going to have to take stronger action here if clubs aren't compliant. And when I'm talking about stronger action, if we can't assure our insurer, Rotary International, the public, frankly, because there's a huge reputational risk to Rotary if we don't have this and we get into trouble. And if you think about, it's only some club that's not mine that it has a problem with this. Don't think that way, because if any of us get into trouble, we're all in trouble in terms of reputational risk. If we have a problem and we are shown not to be doing the minimum in terms of youth protection. So it's not okay. And so if clubs are not compliant, we are going to have to tell them that they must not, as a club, work with youth or vulnerable adults. And you don't have to, you can do other things in Rotary. I hate to go down that road, because I think youth is one of the greatest areas in the world that we have in Rotary. And I want everybody to be part of that. But you have to do the compliance with criminal records if you're going to work with youth. And it is that simple. So I'll stop there. I know there are concerns about some of the mechanics, and I don't want to get very far into those, because there are answers. Ron has got answers, but we could take all night dealing with, I tried to get this criminal record check and there was this problem with the paper and so on. Okay, whatever. But there are answers. But I'll stop there and ask, and let's keep it at a little higher level than that if there are questions, concerns.
John, it's Linda. Could I just mention one quick thing? Just a comment for people to take away to their clubs. take a look at your programs that you're doing on a regular basis, an annual basis, and ask those questions about are we actively working with youth? Sometimes you do a pancake breakfast and you have interactors come. You don't really think about it because you've always done it. But those members that are doing that pancake breakfast should all have updated CRCs. So sometimes we forget just to check those little things in some of our projects and events that we do at a club level. So just something to take away back to your club. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of education around this that we need to keep working on too, but for sure. Okay, anything else on that? Okay, then moving along, our next item is to talk about Rotary Club Central. And we've got Nancy and Drew there, but I understand that Nancy and Drew are really wanting to treat this as mostly a resource situation where they can answer questions if there are questions. But do you want to say anything to lead in, either Nancy or Drew?
Well, I encourage anyone in their clubs who has a problem with Rotary Club Central or has needs some sort of assistance. Now is a good time to ask it because John has given us time to spend on Rotary Club Central. So if you've got any questions, yes, please ask us.
Nancy, I have a question.
All right.
There are some modules in the training that that are difficult to access unless you have unless you're registered with Rotary Central. Why can't we access or get some form of access volunteers that are not Rotary members? It's a barrier for education and training.
So is your question like, can people who are non-Rotarians have access to Rotary Club Central? Was that the
Yes.
question, Ron?
Yep.
Why?
Oh, okay, well, if you're hesitant, Nancy, I will jump in and answer it because as I understand it, a lot of us feel that that would be desirable to make that available, but there is no way to do it at the moment under RI. And it's an RI choice that would have to be made to open that up. Lauren?
John, is it possible for the relevant programs, I call the relevant e-learning programs, to be downloaded and put onto the District 5040 website? Because they're not all relevant to non-Rotarians, but if it is on protection and youth, compliance, then I think that's an area where we could do it. And if not, then we have to find comparable e-learning courses and consider that.
Because we haven't, I mean, we can't, there can't just be one or two people asking this question. I mean, it's the same issue has to apply in South Carolina as here, as you've got volunteers and if you're involved in youth exchange and you're involved in NAN, as a district, you can access some training there, but you also have to, I think, be registered. But for just sheer volunteers, it's hard, particularly when you're trying to, I would think, never run into it myself, when I would think you were trying to encourage some people to learn more about Rotary, particularly about, I'm thinking about youth activities, of course.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, John. So just quickly on that, our district does have a youth protection module for volunteers, for non-Rotarian volunteers. It's been in practice for probably about half a year now, but we hope to get that information up on the website for July the 1st. So if you have any volunteers that are working with your youth programs that are non-Rotarians that you feel would benefit from taking a youth protection module, you can just let us know. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Linda. And just on the way by, if I had my druthers, and I know that's true of a lot of people in the youth in our youth committee world, I'd love to have all of our volunteers take that course. But we're not quite where we're gonna, one step at a time. And if we can get our CRCs universal and encourage the other, I think that will be tremendous progress. I do want to say, sorry, go ahead.
So you're trying to take the time away from Rotary Club Central and put it back to CRCs, John. You think that I don't notice what you're doing, but this was to do with Rotary Club Central. But
it
anyway,
is, and sorry, go ahead.
well, there is one from Louise's iPad, which I think is awesome, and I don't know which Louise it is, but thank you. It says 100% agree on CRC for all. So if I could
Now
just
you're bringing it back. Now you're bringing it back to criminal record checks.
well, that's what you were talking about. So I thought I would just throw that in there, but if we could pull it back to Rotary Club Central, that would be great. If anyone has any questions. The purpose of Rotary Club Central, John, is to help the clubs. That is the whole purpose of Rotary Club Central. If you set goals for your clubs, then your club will succeed. And statistics have shown that those clubs that are doing very, very well in the district are those clubs who do their Rotary Club Central very diligently. And so we think that it's a good learning tool for all the clubs. And so I leave an open invitation that if you're having trouble with Rotary Club Central, or you want some help or want some explanation, there's myself and Drew. We're always willing to talk to you about it. A lot of the assistant governors now are very adept at talking about Rotary Club Central. Liz and Ian Grant and Murray Wood, they're all very knowledgeable at Rotary Club Central. So we're all here to help.
And I want to echo what you're saying about the importance of that, because that is how we enter the club goals and how we record progress. And those have been tremendously effective in getting us to our goals. This is where our district really shines. As Lauren has pointed out proudly and justifiably, our district the last couple of years has been the only district that's had all of the clubs entering their goals on Rotary Club Central. And we are seeing, at the same time, we're seeing good progress towards some of those goals. Our numbers in the district in terms of what we're doing in areas of membership foundation are really doing well. But part of that, I'm sure, is that clubs are being explicit when they're looking at their goals and thinking through, okay, what are our goals? And then what are we doing to achieve them? And it's that logical flow that really helps you get results. And it gets you the presidential citation, which is something that's an honor that's well worth getting. And again, we've been getting quite a number of presidential citations to the point that last year our district got recognized for the number of clubs with presidential citations. So, we're really shining as a district here, and we've got the resources that Nancy, Drew, the other people that are involved are the resources that can really help us make that happen. So I'll quit yapping because I see there's several hands. Linda, and then Linda's. Was that a new hand or an old hand?
I think Peter has been patiently waiting.
Okay, Peter's there, and Peter, and then Ron.
Just a quick comment about the advantage of Rotary Club Central and having your goals posted there, and also keeping them up to date, is any one of your members can go in and find out where are we, how are we progressing with our goals. And that's a huge opportunity. And if you promote the fact that to your club members saying, look, everything's transparent, go in and look at Rotary Club Central and see where we are. So I would add that to the list of advantages of Rotary Club Central. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks.
Ron?
Nancy, when people do pass a module in the education component, and I think of Lauren because Lauren's got a list an arm long of different activities he's completed. Who in the district is notified? There must be a place where I know you get a certificate at the end, or is there someone in the district that's notified?
I'm going to defer to Lauren on that question because he's the master of that.
I get a report every Monday.
Really?
Every Monday. And
So-
the problem is they don't take off, like it's just a continuous gathering of data. And so, but I get one I get 2 reports every Monday. And I've been passing them on to Jan Gisborne because she's the one that should get this report. But it's very informative, and especially when we're trying to drive the president-elects to go and take their president training program, e-learning. And there is a suite of programs that are there, and that suite is monitored. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, do you not get them? Because I know when I was district trainer, I was getting a list of who'd taken courses and what they were.
Yeah, at this point in time, as district trainer, I received those weekly reports. And I believe as district trainer-elect, Peter Rolfe is receiving them as well. And I do have to say that Peter is our resident expert at being able to discern the reports. They're not that terribly user-friendly. Peter might be able to comment if, Ron, you're looking for a convenient way to know who has taken which report. The reports that Lauren is referring to, the information's there, but it's really not very user-friendly, quite frankly. Peter, I invite your comment as well, please.
Just quickly, they are Excel sheets, and we can sort them by course topic and then find out who, and these are just for our district. So we can find out who's taken what and when. So you can get a report. So send me a message if you want, so that the data cut in that way.
We do have a system. We do have a system in place, and it's called a Rotary profile on Club Runner, which is where we park successful activities that are recognized, including the background or the CRCs. And John's shaking his head because we're creating reports regarding the CRC. There's no reason, if we have the information you're talking about, Peter. We've got 2 staff that are ready to update everybody's profile, so we could do that on a district basis. That's another topic for another time, but good information. Thank you.
Good point.
Okay,
Thanks,
well,
Ron. Yeah, John, Ellen's been waiting quite
I
patiently.
see Ellen's been waiting, but just before I ask Ellen, I want to say that since we're running towards the end, I'm going to ask that we open up the discussion. If anybody's got anything on RCC, it's still fine, but we'll open it to any topic after Ellen.
Well, why are you making that offer? You've already swayed from RCC to everything else.
Ellen, over to you.
Yes, Ellen.
So I guess my question is that, say if it's in the goals that we have 5 people complete courses in learning and development, how do I know?
There is a question on chat that says that, can the clubs get that information? So is it something that we can make available to the clubs, Lauren?
Yes.
I'm going to echo what Bill said, though. These reports are not very user-friendly, and it's got everybody listed on it. And it's really hard to pare them back. So if there's a sorting mechanism, if we could save them, I think we can save them in Excel and sort them, but it's work. And so that's kind of what we're left with. And no offense, but I've been way too busy to look at these regularly. And I do recommend that we find a solution, because you're right. That's kind of.
So
Can I
maybe
get a-
that's one thing
can I
that we
get a-
can look at. Yeah.
Can I get a copy, please? Send me a copy of it, please.
Yes, Lauren shook his head yes. So yes, he
Okay,
will. Do that.
Linda has her hand up.
Yeah, just really quickly, what we do with youth programs is that we just ask members that are within our under our district youth umbrella, is that when they take any type of training, if it's youth protection or whatever it is, that they provide us with a copy of their certificate. So every time you finish a module, you get a certificate. So they just email the certificate to me, and I take a recording of the program that they have taken. So for now, that's how we're dealing with it at a youth level, because we're just kind of on the beginning side of doing more of that type of training on not only youth protection, but a whole bunch of other stuff too.
Okay, thank you. And I see in chat that Liz is asking if we can share with the AGs, and as far as I know, we can. You can, but as per Lauren said, you may have to have the challenge of how to handle the data, but I think we can provide it, but it may be a bit raw. Anybody else?
I think we can make Liz district trainer. I think that would be a really good one, and then she'll get those reports too. So
I think Chris has a question, John.
Yep.
Not a question. I'd echo Lauren's comment in the chat box. We're verging on sharing personal information all over the district. When I hear people talking about, send me that spreadsheet about criminal records, which education courses people have taken, we should refer to our district policy, the RI policy. That information can't be shared without each person on that list giving their permission. I'd be very careful when we start swapping lists of what Rotarians have done in the district. That's why, answering one of Ron's questions, why some of that is behind a firewall. And that's why it happens. People start sharing the information and Rotary starts building firewalls to stop the information from being shared. So I'd caution to be careful of what you're sharing.
No, thank you for the reminder, Chris, although I think, you know, the privacy provisions do allow us to share information on a need to know basis for internal use. And, you know, we are dealing with people that have a role that is relevant. So, but we still have to be careful. Absolutely.
And Marnie has a question also, John.
Yep.
Marnie?
Hi, just further to that, at work, when we need to do file sharing or information sharing, we use something secure. Well, we're using OneDrive, but we may need to think about developing a practice on that. If we're needing to start doing that, where people can access it safely and securely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good point.
So John, you have 3 minutes still to go. So Lauren in the chat has a comment regarding Rotary Club Central, because that was my topic. He says goals and stretch goals do work. And I have a comment to Lauren about that. If clubs do put in stretch goals, how do they reach the citation level?
I didn't want them putting in Rotary Club Central, Nancy. I wanted them to tell me so that I could come back and celebrate. And
so you've
really,
left the Rotary Club Central again, and you've gone on.
So no, the perfect example is that this year at our district level, we set a goal and a stretch goal, which we communicate to each of the clubs on membership and foundation. And I'm very pleased to say we've gone past 3 of those. And we have one that we're still trying to get to, and that's the membership side. So we've done remarkably good by setting a goal, and we're doing really good by setting the stretch goals. So,
well, I find in my club, our president put in stretch goals for membership, which I kind of shuddered at it. And I said to him, you know, that's really hard to reach since I was the membership chair. But we're almost there, Lauren, but you know, it caused a lot of stress.
Only with our membership chair.
yeah, it's great when you can delegate. It's great when you can delegate the stress, but it does work.
Yeah, to someone else, right? Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, Chris, do you have your hand up again, or is it still up from before? I'm going to take that it's still up from before.
I think
okay. So I'm going to then wind up and say I want to thank everybody very much for coming tonight, and I hope that this is helpful. We will we're there for you is what is the message that I really want to keep communicating, is that we really want to hear from the clubs about what you want that we can help with, and be imaginative. If you're not sure, ask us, and your agent is your first contact. Several things in closing in terms of things that are happening. These are all been communicated separately, so you don't need to be writing them down, but the district conference is coming up May 20 to 22 in Prince George. Lauren is and his committee, Bill, have been doing great in terms of getting ready. I know that there's more and more registrations coming in, and it's going to be a lovely party in Prince George, May 20 to 22. So we're looking forward to that. The district AGM is on Zoom, May 25. Again, the notices have gone out to the clubs, but every Rotarian is welcome. The district installation is June 21. It's in New Westminster, and folks are welcome to that. Jennifer Jones, July 10. $1 Million Dinner, October 7. And I'm looking forward to doing club visits, starting pretty much right after Labor Day. And we'll try and do them as quickly as we can in the fall. We're face to face again, as far as I'm concerned, and I hope all the clubs are, and it stays that way through the fall. I'm really looking forward to it, and it'll be just great to get back into that. That's all I've got. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Okay.